Greetings, my name is Ayo, and welcome to Jack's Empowerment Series. The aim of this series is to empower you, our listeners, and add value to you. For the first batch of the series, we'll be reviewing business ideas, and subsequently, we'll be talking about mindsets, life experiences, and so on. With me is Mr. Jack Lookman, and today we'll be reviewing a very unique business idea, which is also quite traditional, and the idea is about traditional savings, popularly known as Ajo in the Yoruba community in Nigeria, West Africa. It's very nice to have you, Mr. Jack.
Thank you very much.
Welcome on board.
Thank you.
And Mr. Jack, please, I would like you to tell us briefly about the idea and how you came about it.
Okay, thank you very much, Ayo. Of course, like you've said, the idea is not new. It's a traditional idea. Basically, the idea is about, or the business, or what the concept is. Traditionally, Yorubas and some other parts of the world, they've been engaged in the money saving process called Ajo. The way it works is that, for example, there are 10 people in that Ajo community. Maybe they contribute £100 each every month, and they do this for 10 months. So what happens is that at the end of every month, one out of the whole people collects £1,000 every month. Each of them collects £1,000 monthly until they exhaust the process. So in effect, each of them is able to, it's a sort of savings process. But the unique thing about it is that if, for example, you have money in a bank account, you can have access to it whenever and anytime you want. So you can, maybe you have a goal to save £1,000, but life comes with its never-ending challenges it also comes with its it makes you want to spend. Maybe you find a luxury thing or things like that, you spend. But with this, it sort of pegs that because you have to make that contribution monthly. So what happens with Ajo is that each of you contributes £100 monthly, for example, and at the end of each month, you collect £1,000 individually until you exhaust the process. Now, what I'm trying to do with this idea is that, yes, it's been successful traditionally. Of course, it comes with its challenges. But another thing about this idea is that I'm trying to marry technology and the internet with the traditional process so that it can be automated, such that it is more modern, etc., etc. So in a nutshell, it is modernizing a traditional process and leveraging technology and also the internet. So that is basically briefly about the business idea. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jack, for your insights. So I'm sure our listeners must be curious. How did you come about this idea, and what was the inspiration behind it?
Okay, what happened is that I had some family friends who were involved in Ajo. They did it diligently. In some cases, there will be disappointments. Maybe people fell sick and couldn't get their normal salary. In some cases, it was issue of trust. People collect their pots and they just disappear or give one excuse or the other, etc. But I thought, to avoid the arguments, to avoid no transparency, etc., I thought maybe this process could be structured even better. I felt there was a lot of room for improvement, accountability, transparency, and generally making the process more efficient. So in a nutshell, that's the inspiration for the idea. I actually come from an engineering background, and even though I don't practice engineering anymore, but one of the things we try to do is to find solutions to problems. And I felt this could be a problem, and I thought I would find a solution around it. So that's basically the inspiration for the idea.
Interesting. And going back to your engineering background, which also covers plenty of execution. So I'm very curious, right? Where can this business be executed? For example, one wants to go ahead with it.
Basically, with the Azure, what I'm proposing is an app whereby you can just put in whatever parameters, save whatever information, and all that information becomes available to all members of that group. Each of them should be able to access that app on their phones, and then basically they are updated every time that there's progress on the process. And there will be some members of the group who fall short in one form or the other, all that's going to be recorded. So in a nutshell, the app can be used locally, it can be used globally, anywhere. Like they say, the world is now becoming a small village. So with the leverage of the internet and so on and so forth, you might get members from different countries even if you want, or you can get it locally. For example, if it's locally, you might have your small community of 10 or whatever number, and then you can execute the process. And in this day and age where people are going into diaspora, etc., if you want to partner with people in America and other parts of the world, all that is very possible. So basically, it can be done locally and it can be done globally. That's the answer to your question.
Interesting. So again, who are the target market for this idea?
Basically, they are the users themselves, those who participate in the Azure process. So this app will be the main end users. But in addition to that, entrepreneurs may be involved. Entrepreneurs who want to invest into this process, who want to fund it, etc., and who want to execute or share their experience. This app may also be useful for marketers. The marketers might help to market the product, and of course investors. Sometimes the people who conceive ideas don't necessarily have the money to execute them, so investors might be interested in such a project, whereby they put in money, you put in the know-how, and eventually everybody reaps from the benefits therefrom. So yeah, that's what I think.
Interesting. That makes me a typical customer for whoever is going to launch this business idea.
Okay.
And we're also curious, right? What is the selling proposition, or what are the benefits of this business?
I will come back to the unique selling proposition later, but the benefits of the business of the app or using the app. One, it automates the process. That's the traditional process. And like you're aware, with technology, sometimes the efforts which you normally put in traditionally is usually much more than the efforts you put in when you automate systems. So one, it will help to automate the process. It will allow for ease of communication. For example, I mentioned just a few minutes ago that the community might be people from all over the world, so it allows for ease of communication. It allows for ease of transparency and accountability. It allows people to leverage the technology and the internet. It also helps with wealth creation, job creation, and hopefully crime reduction as well. So those are my little thoughts, and of course there might be other benefits that I've not mentioned, but those are some of the key words I can think of.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Mr. Jack. And what resources and capabilities are required to unleash the benefits of this business?
First and foremost, money is required as well because, like the Yoruba people say, "Owo ni koko."
Yes, yes.
So money is required. Obviously, digital devices are required. Maybe a digital phone or smartphone, a digital tablet, a computer, or things like that. Obviously, you need marketing. No matter how good your product or service is, if you don't market it well, you're unlikely to make a big profit. You might need an app developer somewhere along the line who is going to articulate, the requirements and make it into an app. And as time goes on, you can update the technical bits of it. You might need a social media platform whereby you can interact with customers and other stakeholders. You might need an investor for the money. And in terms of money, you might not really need too much, but I'll talk about investment options or finance options later. So those are some of the requirements for the business. You need to articulate the content properly and make your product or service and then sell the service. So that's it in a nutshell.
Those are very interesting insights, Mr. Jack. And how can we market the business, or how do we get it to the customers?
Popularly, there's social media marketing. With social media marketing, normally it's very, very effective. You can put in your posts on the social media platforms, targeted social media platforms, and you can get other people to purchase the product. Or if you decide you want to make the product free, and then you get alternative monetization models. So social media marketing is very important. Digital marketing, which comprises social media marketing and other marketing, can be explored. Community groups, you can leverage through community groups. You could leverage referrals. For example, if some people use the product and are happy with it, you can encourage them to refer other people. I think I mentioned community groups, associations. People who use them, market women, professionals, etc., Africans, and so on. You can leverage those platforms to reach other people, and then you can explore other marketing options. If the business becomes big, you might leverage radio stations, TV stations, and so on and so forth. You can leverage influencers on social media. You could leverage different platforms, just to make sure you're getting your message across. And once the product is of value, I'm sure people will continue to recommend to others. But there are different options of how to market the product.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for your insights. And challenges are part of business.
Yes.
It's a part of entrepreneurship.
Yes.
And so what challenges should our listeners look for, anticipate, should they want to go ahead with this business idea?
First and foremost is competition. However good a business is, especially even if it's good, there will always be competition. So competition, you might look at it as a challenge or as a motivation, but that's one of the challenges. Acceptability. Now, like they say, one of the most difficult things in life is change. No matter how good. I think Mr. Jack Ma, who owned Alibaba, he said that he tried to get people to invest in his business. He explained the money that can be made, etc. People, for one reason or the other, avoided it because it was change. It was a different way of doing things. Eventually, this guy became a multi-millionaire or billionaire, and those people who he invited to invest their peanuts and would have made a lot of money rejected it. So that's one of the things. So acceptability is that's change is another thing. Now, building trust is another challenge. Technology usage and technology literacy is another challenge. So there's, whatever you do, there will always be challenges. But the good thing about being an entrepreneur or a business person is that once you notice the challenges, you make a note of them and find solutions around those challenges. And that's what makes the best of you. For example, if you look at the successful business owners in the world, the Microsoft, etc., they had challenges, they had technical problems, etc. But whenever there are challenges or difficulties, they make a note of it, find a solution to the problem, and then move on. They don't just wait on the spot or wait and cry, say, oh, challenge. No. They have a positive outlook, they find solutions, and then they move forward. So those are some of the challenges I can think about.
All right, thank you very much for your insights. Okay, and thank you very much for listening. Please hang on. We'll be back very shortly.
Okay, thank you very much for the break. Thank you very much, Ayo.
Welcome back to Jack's Empowerment Series by me, my humble self, Ayo, and with me is Mr. Jack Lookman.
I'm humble too.
Yeah, so we've been discussing traditional savings, popularly known as ajo, and ways by which we can go around them should we want to embark on this business. So yeah, Mr. Jack, one of the challenges or one of the areas where small businesses overlook is around legalities. So for someone looking to venture into traditional savings, what type of business legal structure is required?
Thank you, Ayo. Yeah, there are different business structures if you want to set up a business. You could register just a business name. You could have a limited company, limited liability company. You could have a limited liability partnership. You might even have a public limited company if you're that big. You could do it as a charity if you want, whereby all your proceeds go into charity. Or maybe social enterprise, whereby whatever money you make, use it for social activities, like, for example, some people want to save the world, etc., etc. Some want to eradicate poverty, and so on and so forth. So, on the one hand, if you are doing it just to make money, if you're doing it to explore capitalism, etc., make money, become rich, millionaire, etc., then maybe you might go along the lines of maybe the first 3 or 4 I've mentioned. On the one hand, if you're just doing a business name, it has its pros and cons. One of the pros is that it's probably easier to manage, but one of the cons, if you get it wrong, maybe somebody sues you or things like that, whatever you have, your whole life savings, etc., is what will be used to pay off. But if, on the other hand, you have maybe a limited liability company or something like that, the liability is not on you per se, it's on the business. So you might sell off your business assets, etc., and pay those liabilities. But for more information, I would suggest you do a bit more research about business name, limited liability company, limited liability partnerships, etc. If you go on the internet, maybe YouTube or Google, there's so much information there, so you can explore that. But for the purpose of this talk, personally, I will start with a business name, just an ordinary business name. Then as time goes on, I'll probably scale it up to a limited liability company. That's what I would do as a preference. So I hope that answers the question.
Yes. Thank you very much for your insight, Mr. Jack. And I mean, for our listeners, right, I'm sure they're very curious what the business roadmap might look like. So in other words, how would the business work, and what does the flow look like?
Okay, I'm probably not going to tell you about the flow. I'll let you do the mathematics, quote and unquote. But I'll tell you some of the major milestones in the business. And then you can do your jigsaw puzzle. You can place it wherever you want, and and draw your roadmap yourself. So that so what some of the main milestones. Of course, you have to create the app, which is the main product we are selling. You need to collaborate as necessary. For example, if you're not an IT person, you don't know how to make an app, you might either collaborate with an app person, or maybe you outsource that job to the app person. You might also want to sell suitable other products. Hopefully by the time you finish this product. One thing about entrepreneurship is that most ideas feed other ideas. You might start with an idea ABC, and eventually, you might continue with BCD or XYZ. They always feed. Once you have an idea, other opportunities will come. So at some point or the other, you might want to involve yourself in other suitable products and services, which might be directly or indirectly related to what you're doing now, or it might even be something else entirely different. So also, it's important, especially for your marketing, to create your mailing list. With the mailing list, you're able to communicate with those who are customers, etc. You're also able to communicate with prospective customers, and also, prospective collaborators, etc. And one of the purposes of this, is to market and remarket, products and services to them. This might be to those on your mailing, with your immediate customers or other customers. Also, at some point, you want to get feedback. One of the things I found out about most of these big organizations is that they get a lot of feedback. They sometimes do it through surveys. Sometimes they do it through interviews. Maybe they interview you and they give you some incentive or something like that, etc. But feedback is key. In life changes a lot. Internet was not around maybe 40 years ago. Maybe the car was not available maybe 200 years ago, etc. So life keeps revolving. So the feedback will help you add greater value to your products and services. Also, as the business progresses, you might want to consider employing staff. If you're an entrepreneur, for example, you don't want to waste your time and effort doing many things. For example, maybe your hourly rate, just for example, is £50 an hour. If you are spending time doing the manual things, which is effectively maybe £10 or £20 an hour, you're actually shortchanging yourself by doing that. It's better you do the high-profile things and outsource, or maybe get staff or outsource the smaller things to other people to do, so that you're doing the more important things and using your time wisely rather than doing other things. And of course, I've mentioned marketing, creating the app, collaboration as necessary, outsourcing as necessary, and so on and so forth. I hope this stimulates your thought process. There might be other things on the list to be done, but I think this will stimulate your thought process.
Thank you, Mr. Jack. And moving forward, right? What are the different, say, operational strands in the business?
Okay. Well, first and foremost, you need to research the product, you need to research the market, you need to research competitors, you need to know whether this will be a viable product business or not. You need to create the product. You start with the prototype of the minimum viable product. You create it, you test it. You might involve an IT person or an app developer. You might also at some point you might be involved with social media management. You might have a social profile whereby you're able to leverage that to communicate with people and also to market your product. You will need to do administration, in as much as the main product is the main product, but there are other bags and baggages that come with it. You have to do your administration, your accounting, and so on and so forth. From time to time, you might want to strategize to make sure that you are on top of your game and that you are doing what you are doing. You are doing it to the best of your ability. So by the time you strategize, maybe you have meetings with stakeholders, etc., you are getting better ideas on how to improve your doing. And then growth management is another thing. At some point, assuming maybe 10% of the populace, maybe in your country, have purchased your products, is that the end of your business? Maybe not. You want to target more people. You want to have ways of making money. You have to explore monetization options. You might want to consider your monetization plan, whether you just want to sell the product at a one-off price, or if you want people to pay a license for it, which means they'll pay a little bit, but maybe monthly or annually or every 5 years or something like that. You might also want to consider your monetization plan. How are you going to be making money? If all the people in the world have already purchased your product, who else are you going to sell it to? Is your product only for, what niche, what demographics is your product for? How are you going to continue making money? Because at the end of the day, the whole purpose of doing business is to make money. So you have to give some thought to your monetization plan. So you have to strategize, etc. I hope I've just touched on a bit of things. Just think about them, and I'm sure this should stimulate your thought process on other processes to be followed. But the bottom line is that you have to create your products, and you have to sell, and you have to keep making money.
Thank you very much. And something struck me from what you said, right? That research is always very important. So in terms of product development, in terms of market research, and even your competitors, right? You should have a good idea of what the market or the landscape looks like. I mean, it's part of your own business development exercise. And again, I mean, moving forward, right? One would want to imagine the potentials of such a venture. I mean, how big can this get? How massive is it?
Okay, for the business, obviously, if it gains popularity, at the moment, it looks like it's the ethnic minorities who are using it. Maybe in Africa, very little parts of America, in the Central American areas. That's just a small part of the world. If you package this product very well, if you have a good monetization plan, if you do your marketing very well, I think there's a lot of potential. If the current usage, for argument's sake, is maybe 1% of the world, that means you have maybe almost 99% you can reach. You can reach young people, up and coming young people. You can use it for people who are in employment. Even entrepreneurs could use it. Businesses might even be able to use it. So I think there's a lot of scope for it. Apart from the product itself, and it looks like it's going to be an evergreen product, so that as this population is aging, the younger generation should also be able to use it. So it's also something that could be useful as a complement to regular banking. Yes, already in this world we have the, what are they called, the finance,
the
fintechs are almost taking over from the banks.
Yeah.
So somewhere along the line, this could gain momentum, and you could also reach out to a bigger audience. It's cost effective with the right team and the right users. It could be efficient and very effective. If people like it, it could have great monetization potentials. And as one thing about success is that if you manage it very well, you can actually build on it. When people see that, oh, you're doing very well with what you're doing, different people will want to collaborate with you, and that's where you're able to optimize your potential and your monetization. Also, you could build on the success, as I've said, and create other products and services by collaborating with others. So in a nutshell, there's a lot of potential for this business and other businesses that could be built around this business.
All right. Thank you very much. I'll be right back.
Thank you very much, Ayo.
Welcome back to Jack's Empowerment Series. And so far we've been reviewing traditional savings, popularly known as AJO, and providing some guidelines on how to get into the business venture. So with me is Mr. Jack Lookman.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's always good to have you here.
Thank you very much, Ayo.
So as we've been discussing, right? I mean, I'm sure our listeners are curious as about what weaknesses and strengths exist for the business.
Okay, thanks, Ayo. I shall talk about the weaknesses and strengths. I should just mention a few points. First and foremost, this product will make the process very effective and very efficient. It also helps create wealth and jobs. It could be user-friendly. It could come in different languages. It could help technology illiterates to become literate. It opens opportunities. And then it promotes optimal use of digital gadgets. There are a lot of people with maybe smartphones, iPhone, etc., but they probably use 1% or 0.5% of the possibilities. So it helps for the optimal use of digital gadgets, and it also opens business opportunities as well. Some of the weaknesses is acceptability. Like you probably know, change is one of the greatest things to overcome. So if it's accepted, well and good. But generally in business and in life, you have to put in a lot of effort before a product becomes acceptable. Also, technology illiteracy. I think in the world that we are, probably 5 or 10% have actually been through the walls of higher institutions, and maybe up to 5% or thereabouts are more technology literate. So that's technology literacy is going to be a problem. It's going to be a challenge, a weakness. And then also, if there are technical issues, like no system is perfect. So if there are technical issues, that might be a weakness. And possibility of fraud, although this could be minimal and could be mitigated. But generally, it's nice to know weaknesses as well, so that when you know the weaknesses, you're able to mitigate against them and improve your product or service.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I mean, moving forward, right? What might the minimum viable product, the MVP, what might it look like?
Well, excuse me. After collecting relevant data, a minimum viable product should be created and tested, and feedback should also be recycled into the process, into the product. And once the all clear is given, you could be in business. For all intents and purposes, you want to do a small miniature product whereby it has different functionalities, it's user friendly, etc., etc. And then you try this on your test audience. You might give it for them to try it for free, and then get feedback, etc. You might even give them some incentive, and then once you've got the all clear, you go ahead and mass produce the product. And in terms of mass production, this is just going to be an app, but you test it with a little audience, and then when you get the go ahead, you get it to a wider audience.
Oh, nice. Thank you very much. And I mean, who are some likely contact persons should our listeners want to get started with
the business? Thanks for the interest to all the listeners. I could be contacted on Facebook if you do a search for Jack Lookman, or you can contact me by email if you do it to jacklukman@yahoo.co.uk. And of course, you write the subject as put in an appropriate subject matter, and tell me about your interests, and then we can have a discussion, discuss terms, and so on and so forth.
Oh, nice. So, our listeners, you can reach Mr. Jack on Facebook as Jack Lookman, or by email as jacklookman@yahoo.com. So jack.co.uk @yahoo.co.uk.
Yes.
So Jack and Lookman is spelled Look and Man.
Lookman.
Yeah, thank you. And really, back to one of the points you raised at the beginning, right? That what is the unique selling point of this business?
Well, in a nutshell, it's about easing a traditional process by leveraging technology. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, and has any market research gone into this?
Yes. Though I don't do a job, I don't do it myself because I think there are many flaws in the process. But I have friends who do. I've got feedback from them. Also, I know that some entrepreneurs raised about $2 million or thereabouts from seed funding for a product just like Ajo. I reckon the cost of doing my own proposed app will be much cheaper. So yes, I have done a bit of market research, and these are some of my findings. But I think doing it manually is cumbersome and not as effective. So I think there's a big market for the product.
Interesting. And do you perhaps have any other content on this subject matter?
Yes, I do. I've written a book. It's available on Amazon.com.
Oh, sure.
And I've also done a YouTube video on this topic. So you can check out, if you look for Jack Lookman on YouTube, and maybe include Ajo as part of the search criteria, you should be able to find me there.
Yeah, so closely relating with the marketing research, has any competitor research gone into this?
Yeah, basically I actually jumped before the horse. I was very passionate about this topic, and I went ahead and created my YouTube video, wrote a book. But afterwards, I noticed that some Nigerians actually, some Igbo boys, went ahead and raised about the said $2 million seed funding just for the idea. On the one hand, I felt good that at least there was some sense in what I was professing. But on the other hand, I felt shortchanged. It looked like it was an opportunity that passed me by. But the good news is that I feel that this project could be achieved with much cheaper funds. I think with maybe maximum of £1,000 or £2,000, you can actually do the project. So I think, that's been a bit of the competitor research. And Igbo boys, they're very smart, very entrepreneurial, etc. So yes, they've started the process, but there's a lot of room for competition, and there's a lot of room in the marketplace.
And but what are the monetization options, right? And how do they make money?
Basically, to make money, there are different options. On the one hand, you can give out the product for free, and but as you know, there's no free lunch anywhere. We're in business to make money. You can make it free, and then you could include advertisements of other vendors. For example, if it's free, as they're using the app, there'll be adverts coming up, and you can make money through that. Also, you can make money through sponsorships. There might be people who might want to sponsor the product, maybe for a period. You agree on terms, and then maybe somewhere on your app, maybe as a footer or header, their products are being advertised, or their products and services are being advertised. Also, you could license the product after a period. For example, the product might be free for maybe a year or thereabouts, and then thereafter, when the users are hooked to it, you could introduce a licensing fee or one-off payment, etc. Also, you could license the intellectual rights or the intellectual property. In other words, you do the app, and then you sell the concept to other interested parties or competitors. For argument's sake, maybe a competitor might want to license it for maybe 2 years, 3 years, or thereabouts. So they use your intellectual rights and your intellectual property, and they pay you for replicating what you are doing. Also, when the business becomes popular, for example, just like WhatsApp, most people use WhatsApp, a lot of people use WhatsApp, and eventually I think WhatsApp was sold for maybe some millions or billions of pounds. So maybe when the product becomes popular, you might sell the product to a competitor or somebody else who is interested in buying it. And when you are selling it, I'm not talking about thousands of pounds, I'm talking about maybe millions or billions of pounds. So those are some of the ways in which you can monetize the product. But of course, you can explore how this will stimulate your thought process, and you can explore other options of monetization. And of course, any feedback you're able to give us will be very much welcome.
Thank you very much. And can you be of help with a business plan?
Yes, definitely. We can work on a business plan, for you, whatever part of the world you are. Yes, it might take maybe 2 weeks or a month or thereabout. But yes, if you want us to do a business plan for you, you can contact us at our email address, jacklookman@yahoo.co.uk, and use a proper and adequate subject heading, and we can talk and agree on terms, etc.
And also, how do we book? What if I'm interested in booking a one-on-one chat with you?
Oh, that's going to be expensive because my time is very, very valuable. But as usual, contact me on email, jacklookman@yahoo.co.uk, and we can book a session. If you want 30 minutes, if you want 1 hour, if you want a day, etc. It's all about money, isn't it? We can discuss. We can even discuss virtually. We can discuss over Skype. We can discuss over WhatsApp or telephone or alternatives. So you can book a one-to-one chat by emailing me, and we can discuss it further.
Nice. And what are the cost implications of this project?
Well, I'll mention some cost modules. For example, if you're going to use an app developer, that will come at a cost. If you're going to do your marketing, if you're going to outsource that could come at a cost. If you're going to do your market research, for example, that's going to come at a cost. But what I suggest is that you start small and then grow big. So for argument's sake, yes, you might need an app developer. For the marketing, you might start it off on your own. Your market research, you can do that on your own. And then as your business grows bigger, you can invest in professionals doing it. So, and also you can involve collaborators just to cut costs. For example, if you are partnering with other people so that the load is lightened, you can agree on a profit sharing formula whereby you share whatever profit comes out of it. You might involve a legal person to draft this for you, or you might do it yourself, or you might do some research online on how to do a profit sharing formula. But the major cost is getting an app developer. Once the app developer does his thing or her thing, then most of the other bits you can do on your own. And then when the business grows and the workload grows, you can now invest in either employing staff or outsourcing as necessary. There's one thing about outsourcing. When you're outsourcing maybe to a freelancer, you don't have the headache of sorting out pension, staff sickness, absence, holiday, and all this stuff. Because whoever you're going to employ as maybe a freelancer is going to do the job, and you pay them based on your agreement. So most of the freelancers, if they don't perform, terminate that contract and look for somebody. But the good thing about freelancers is that, and you can get them on different freelancing platforms, freelancer.com, upworks.com, and so on and so forth. You can look for those who are rated high, maybe 5 or 4.5 and above. Engage them, discuss terms, and then you can do your thing. So yes, the major cost implication, even for the app developer, on the one hand, you can go to a big company and get them to do it, which will come at a very huge cost, or you can outsource it to a freelancer on the platforms I've mentioned, and then they can do almost the same job or even a good job, and that way you're able to cut your costs. So that's my little answer to your question.
Thank you. And I mean, going back to collaborations, right? I mean, what collaborations options exist?
You could collaborate with investors. For example, if you haven't got money and you need to do the job, you can collaborate with investors and agree on a profit sharing formula. Even the app developers, you can come to terms, agree terms and collaborate with them. Either you pay them zero or you pay them a little bit of money and agree on a profit sharing formula. Also, you can collaborate with any other useful other people that you think can add value to the project. And of course, you can collaborate with Mr. Jack Lookman himself. That way, once we make profit, we can share the profit as well.
Oh, nice, well done. And I mean, where can our listeners get some more of this content?
For such content, you could visit our website. It's called jacksempowerment.com. You could also visit amazon.com, and if you search for Jack Lookman, you'll find some of the books I've written. You could also check out Jack Lookman on YouTube, and we are also on Facebook, and we are working on getting on other platforms. So YouTube, Facebook, Amazon, jacksempowerment.com, and we are working on other platforms.
And Mr. Jack, are you open to collaborations?
Definitely. Jack is, apart from being a content creator, I'm also an entrepreneur. So obviously, if you wish to collaborate, and there are different levels of collaboration. On the one hand, it could be strategizing, it could be brainstorming. That's a part of collaboration. We can put resources together to actualize dreams. So you can email me and we can have a chat. if the times are okay, if it's something I think I'm able to do, then we'll do it. But yes, definitely I'm open to collaborations.
Oh, nice. And and is there a need for product testing?
Yes, definitely there's always a need for product testing. The last thing you want is to invest time, money, energy, and resources only for your customers to get a poor product. And I want you to remember that first impression counts. So if, for example, you tell your customers, oh, the product is ready, and then they are finding flaws in the product, it will create a very, very negative impression. And some of them, without thinking, will just look for the next person who offers a better product or service. So it's always good to test your product. In fact, you can actually test it with your customers. They can give feedback, and when they give the feedback, you can use that to improve the product. Also, with product testing, there are professionals who actually test products. That's what they do for a living. So you can either use the professionals, which could be a bit expensive, or you can use, get them from freelance websites. There are product professionals there as well. Or you could do it yourself by involving your network or your prospective users. So definitely product testing is very important.
Yeah. So, and what are the critical success factors to execute such a venture?
Oh, that's big English, isn't it? Well, my understanding of critical factors, you're talking about your team, the processes, location, marketing, etc. I will touch on a bit of this. First and foremost, the team is very, very, very important. If you have a good team, a motivated team, an inspired team, a team that offers value, a team with positive mindset and positive outlook, then you're likely to succeed. But if you have a team who is always finding faults, never finding solutions, dragging the team, the other members of the team down, always finding, always being negative, those are the type of people you don't actually want in your team. In as much as it's good to find faults because you can actually use the faults to improve your product or service, but if you have a member or members of the team, and don't forget, just one bad egg can spoil the rest. So it's important that you have a good team. If you cannot afford to pay the team, you can probably have a profit sharing formula whereby you come to an agreement on how you are going to share profit when it happens. And that's way it's sort of a win-win. Part of your team might actually be the investor who might put in the money, and of course you agree on the profit sharing formula. In terms of the profit processes, it's good practice to actually document what you think are the processes, starting from the content, the idea itself, the processes you will follow, how you will manage the process, and so on and so forth, how you're going to do your marketing, all the bottlenecks you may face and how you're going to mitigate against them. Your marketing, of course, the same marketing is the soul of the business. Some people have very good products but very poor marketing, and so in such cases the business might not go far. So you have to have a good marketing plan as well. Now, in terms of location, like they say, the world has become a global village. So, you can actually be at your different locations with your team, and you can brainstorm together, maybe on Skype, maybe on WhatsApp, or whatever process you want to, or whatever platform you want. So in terms of location, that's not much of a problem. You can always communicate over the virtually. And like I've said, marketing is a very key part of the process. So yes, you can leverage marketing, social media, etc., like I've mentioned, and but it's very, very important that your product is very, very good, and you have to dot every I and cross every T before you go to the market. And of course, nothing is perfect, but make every effort at making it as perfect as possible. Always get feedback, etc., and improve what you're doing. You see sometimes you have version 1, version 2, etc. All these are improvements on the initial product.
Interesting. And what if our listeners want to give some feedback?
Yeah, as usual, contact me on jacklookman@yahoo.co.uk. Your feedback would be very greatly appreciated. And if you want to talk about other projects, I'm happy to discuss that as well. But don't forget, time is very precious, and Jack Lookman is an older citizen, so the time is even more precious. But feel free to contact me on jacklookman@yahoo.co.uk.
And thank you very much, Mr. Jack Lookman.
Thank you very much, Ayo. It's been nice having you, and it's been nice for you having me. I look forward to more of these interviews so that we can share the little knowledge and experience we have, the ideas, etc. In my case, I consider myself to be more of a creative person. I have ideas almost every day or every week, and I try to document them. So this is my time to share those ideas so that it will benefit me and hopefully benefit other people, community, society, and the world at large. So thank you very much, Ayo, for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, and please watch out for other series of Jack's Empowerment Series.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ayo. Thank you.